Hey, what's up YouTube, Skybadger here, and we're back on day 18 of our 100 player fan game series. So we've had a little bit of a mixed start to the day, made some progress and suffered a few losses, but overall we're still making progress. So as stands in the scoreboard, we're currently falling down into 13th place, although we should be able to climb our way back up into the top 10 pretty easy, but getting up from the top 10 will then be the hard part. So if we have a look at the strongest economies, we're about where we should be for a nation of our size. If we have a look, 14th place, that's not too bad considering we are 13th. We're finding 5 players, and that is taking a massive toll on our economy. Although I should be able to pick it up a little bit more and get a lot more strength out of it. As we can see, although my morale's going down, I'm compensating for that by building more industrial centers. Now, I've got a few more in the build queue, but they'll be coming up. So when we left off yesterday, I can't really remember what we were doing, but I was probably building some stuff, hunting some stuff, and then doing some other stuff. I'm not really sure what that stuff was. So I'll just go from where we're at now. So over the last couple of hours, we nearly got attacked the Panama Canal by Albertan submarines. Now, it would have been perfect if they had attacked us there, because it would have given us the ability to beat them. They would have ran into 3 submarines, they were blocking the canal here, and we would have had 4 destroyers, and 1 cruiser behind it, bombarding them. We would have won it. But instead, he wisened up and is sending them away. So my destroyers are in pursuit while I'm online. I'm going to try to deal as much damage to them as possible. So that's what's happening right there. Now, we were also tipped off to a raid by... Okay, yeah, so we can finally see where that submarine group's going. So that's a long chase ahead, which won't be too much of a problem, because if we come down here, you can see that I am assembling a pretty decent sized battle group. Now, the reason I'm assembling this down here is because all the ships are already down here, so they're already heading down this way. And the reason they're already down here was we were tipped off, and later our intel confirmed the presence of British Columbian convoys. Now, we have sunk those convoys, but there is still a stack of 1 destroyer and 5 subs out here that need to be dealt with. They are too far off my coast to scout from the coast with naval bombers, so I need to use an aircraft carrier, in this case upper hand, to hunt them out, and then my cruisers and destroyers can go in and sink them. So that's what's happening there. Now, that also makes it a lot easier to sink this group, because as stands, it's going to take at least 2 days for this group to get up there, so at least these submarines are going to meet me halfway. Thanks for that, Alberta. You're saving me some time. So that's what's happening right there. I've also split the cruiser group I had up in here into 2, a group that's working in Florida and a group that's working in the Gulf of Mexico. So we have lost a lot of ground in Mexico, but that was just due to raiding. We didn't lose any significant troop numbers. In fact, I don't think we lost any troops at all, and we're going to march straight back in now and take them back. Due to the fact we were able to cripple Alberta's Air Force a couple of days ago, he has really been on the back foot. He has been building a lot of light tanks and is back up to 25, but that's nothing we can't deal with. We're just slowly starting to push forward, and we've already taken control of the oceans around us, which will give us more options. While I will admit at this point we don't control this side, we do certainly control the east side of the Panama Canal, and that is something we're really proud of and something we really need to exploit. So what's happening up here at the moment is I'm sending in a convoy of troops just to, these guys right here, to capture that city. That will give us, finally, a naval base in the north. Because at the moment, the closest naval base we have is all the way down here in Lima. And that's only one, and although it is a pretty well-established base, it can't provide a navy. So the rest of our ships are coming all the way down from down here, literally the furthest place really away. Couldn't send them much further, to be honest. I couldn't build ships any further away if I wanted to, so that sucks, because they have to travel down, around, and then up. So it's taking them at least 2 days to get to the front, so the capture of a naval base in the north will greatly increase our ability to reinforce our naval power in the region. So, you may be thinking, why are we going for naval power when we're clearly stalled on the land? Now, at the moment, the peninsula, oh, it's not really a peninsula, I guess, but Mexico as an area is really, really good for ships. Now, because of how thin it is, a lot of the territory is along the coast. So this sort of territory here If you have the right amount of ships, you can use them as artillery, and there's nothing your enemy can do about it. For instance, once we've destroyed this light tank right here, and our infantry has made it ground and captured it, I'm then going to send the cruiser that was here. There was two, but I kind of fucked up. I let one die. By mistake, of course. I'm going to send the cruiser up over to here to bomb this out. And the reason we're bombing it out is it is now the closest runway, has a lot of enemy troops garrisoned in it, and if we slowly start working on it, we'll make some progress. So it won't be fast, but it will deter our enemy from placing troops there. Now, if we do push them back, we then push them back to their base, this air base here, which then restricts their air coverage over the peninsula and pushes them way back. If we have a look at, is there any Albertan aircraft in the area? They have the best range. At the moment, they can cover this area here, and if we push them back over to here, they're going to only be able to cover up to around here. So we push that back, we can definitely 100% hold this area here now. So it's honestly, it's just come down to that, just pushing them back an air base at a time and slowly working on their tanks. Now in Florida, on the other hand, I'm going to admit I'm kind of annoyed Cuba has come to the party. So if his tanks and troops would die, that would be perfect. And I mean in a sad way, but I mean, I finally start making progress, and he comes in and takes it from me. He's not even prepared for the fight. He has no anti-air guns. I've had my infantry sat under there taking blows just to make sure he didn't lose his tanks and infantry while fighting an infantry unit down here. My DD's been hard at work shooting down aircraft as well. He's unprepared for the situation. So his troops will probably die before, soon. And then that way my own troops can pick up the ground and hold up here. So that's what's happening there. I do have two cruisers down here at the moment, and this one here is stationed right up, pressed against the shore, so that when these convoys get here, while they're disembarking, they have anti-air cover. So this cruiser here can't move. Once they get ashore, they have AA guns, so they won't need the cruiser's cover anymore. Now, I also have another cruiser in the region, which is down here, that was stationed here, but I'm now sending it, let's get that back on there. I'm now sending it back around here to help me deal with this stack right here. Now at the time, this group was sitting right behind the sub, wasn't pushing forwards, so I did need the cruiser to destroy the DD, but now that it's gone ahead and attacked the subs on its own terms, it should be a little bit easier. So that being said, once this is dealt with, this is actually the last significant enemy naval units in the Gulf of Mexico. There are a few more from what I understand, but really, to be honest, once we deal with this, we basically control the Gulf. It does leave one more port up here, and once we capture that, they can't produce any more ships. Well, at least Alberta can't produce any more ships into the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. So that is a great step forwards. He still does have these free ports all the way over here that he has been using regularly to deploy ships. So destroying them is a long way down the line, but we should get there sooner or later. It won't be easy, but we can definitely do it at some point. For this time, the goal is to take out Mexico and just slowly move up and get to pressuring Alberta. Now, Alberta has some pretty high morale at the moment. He recently destroyed a dead nation that was under the protection of his allies. So we are considering countering that by employing those tactics on ourselves. It is a really dirty tactic, to be honest. I don't encourage it, and I wouldn't normally do it, but I mean, we're having a hard enough time fighting Alberta as it is, that we need to level the playing field. If we just let him take this advantage from us, yeah, it's not going to go down well. So even though he has captured 2 capitals in the past few days, he is still not really at max morale, and that is pretty good to see. It was at the point, sadly, where down here some of these provinces were looking at rebelling, so seeing him employ those sort of dirty tactics is kind of a letdown, and we will probably employ them ourselves, considering he is doing them as well. So he also managed to capture the capital of California, which had retreated to Hawaii down here, and I managed to cut his troops off before they reached this capital down here. And actually, looking at it, there is no troops there. So where do I have a lovely infantry piece that's doing nothing? Because I could really do with capturing that. Do I? Oh, I do, but I'd have to take it away from the wall. That's a tough one. Maybe later on. But for the time being, we don't need to do that. In fact, it'll probably be quicker to come over to here and capture that one instead. So, that's where we're at the moment in our war. We're slowly making ground, but it's, you know, slow progress. We're getting there slowly. Not much really more to say. So if we turn off morale map and have a quick look around the world, America, we had a pretty good look at that. Let's come over to here. Yeah, these guys are doing pretty average. There is a lot of fighting over here at the moment, and the United Kingdom seems to be getting involved in everything, which is good, because we'd rather the UK be over here than on our front door. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of fighting down here as well, so if we turn off the morale map, we can see all of that there. The United Kingdom, once again, getting involved, but the United Kingdom is pretty far out of range, so a lot of these provinces here that are at low morale, he's going to have a hard time holding them, and it'll be interesting to see how much he can hold. Persia has also made quite a bit of ground and is getting bigger by the day, although he doesn't seem to be doing much. There is a lot of coalitions in this area still that just aren't fighting each other, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Nothing much has really changed in Europe, so we can just probably move on at this point past that. And they left part of Switzerland, unless they're dealing with Switzerland right now. Yeah, they are. So, if we move on down into Africa, we can see that I think there has recently some fighting has started. Yeah, so we can see that Angola, unluckily, has been attacked by Italy. Now, it does sound like Italy had pretty good motives, considering Angola was harboring Algeria, so that is kind of fair in that respect. Now, I wonder if Ethiopia is jumping in on the action as well, because I believe Ethiopia will probably be wanting to survive. So yeah, he is. So once again, because the Europeans are fighting the South Africans, they're not on our doorstep, so that is a pretty good place to start. If we come down here over into Australasia, we can see there is still a lot of fighting, especially around New Zealand. It's hard to say who's allied with who. New South Wales is still having a field day on New Zealand's core territory and is still running around. He has managed to capture at some point all of New Zealand's industrial centres, so New Zealand's going to be having a hard time. New South Wales is lucky enough that he still has one artillery piece, so he's not sending troops in to fight directly. Instead, he's just holding back and just bombing them out. Considering his enemy can't produce any artillery pieces of his own, he's got a pretty good tactic there. He can New Zealand can either go to New South Wales and take a hammering, or take a hammering by artillery. So I mean, at this point, I'd probably run onto favourable territory and then ambush them later. So there's not really much else to say. We'll have a quick look at my economy and what we're building and what we're going to do going forwards. Does New South Wales has more troops? For goodness sake, he's not done yet. So if we come over to here, we can see that the sub-wall is obviously risen completely on this side, and we're good there. We still need to erect a sub-wall on this side, because as we saw, even though we did have to sink those convoys, I would rather have not done that. I would have rather just let the sub-wall deal with them. Oh, how close is that to finishing patrol? Good. Okay, let's just go track that submarine. Oh, he's force marching it. Good work, because I wasn't going to destroy all of those, so you do it for me. So if we have a look at that, yeah, so if he can take 7 hit points of damage off those, he will lose another submarine, which is good. Good work, Alberta. Keep force marching, buddy. That's the way to victory right there. I'm going to keep chasing you. So yeah, like we said earlier, Alberta is heading right where we want him to, all the way down here. Like, I mean, it's nice for him to head that way, because our carriers will be in the region soon, and they will be able to find the subs and sink them by themselves. At this point, really, once he gets outside of the range of this naval bomber, I'm not going to pursue anymore. The reason is I can't see the subs, so you know, I think it's pretty advisable not to fight something you can't see. I think that's good life advice, guys. Don't fight something you can't see, because if you can't see it, you can't hit it. So once it gets outside of the range of my naval bombers, I'm going to let off and let it go. So him force marching it isn't really too bad. What's the speed at force march? Well, that'd be pretty fast with a 50% increase in speed. So that'd be about 50 km per hour. Meanwhile, my destroyers can naturally do 51. So I'm probably not going to catch him. But he's going to force march himself slowly to defeat. So over an hour he's going to take 5% damage, and 5%, yeah, so that's more than enough for him to lose one of his submarines. So that's a good deal right there. We probably would have only sunk one more anyway before they got away. So that sounds like a win-win. He gets to... No, that works for me, actually. I'm going to take that back. That is a win for me because I only would have sunk one more, but he's going to sink it himself for me. So thank you, Alberta, for that one. Yeah, so I know we said we're going to talk about our economy, so let's finally get onto that. Got one more industrial center in the queue waiting to go up. Now I've got to be careful because I accidentally did this yesterday where one of my buildings completed right before day change and meant I lost a spy because I couldn't pay it. So as cool as the build queue is, you really have to keep that in mind. So if we have a look at what we're building at the moment, we've got quite a few industrial centers under construction, and this is really just to speed up the production of troops and also their resources. Now, we've actually done really well to hold this where it is. So that's been really impressive. We've kept it just about 700 the whole war, despite the fact we've had morale dragging our production down. Now, we've also been able to lift goods production and counteract the effect of our morale dropping, which has been really good as well. Oil, we haven't done much work on, but we're lucky enough that our economy is pretty strong in that area, although we are going to have to invest it at some point, because 200 an hour is not going to sustain us for much more longer when the battleships and cruisers I'm about to start producing. If we have a look at that, the battleships I'm about to start producing require that, 1,250 oil just to start, and they waste a lot more than that. So we are going to have to look at that in the future. Now, in terms of building, we are in the middle of our cycle of building our navy. So at the moment we've got these 2 aircraft carriers under construction. So we are pretty far through the cycle of building our navy right now. We have enough cruisers for 2 battle groups, but some of our submarines and destroyers have been destroyed. So we definitely do need to replace some of those. So we are going to finish these 2 carriers, then produce 3 battleships, and then I'll have enough ships combined for 1 battle group. And then after that, I'm going to go and produce 3 more carriers, 3 more battleships. In the meantime, these other ports can get the rest. So make up for the cruisers and destroyers and submarines I've lost. So I've only really lost 1 cruiser at this point, which still sucked. I mean, I didn't want to lose it, but that's where we're at the moment. Now, I think I do have some aircraft under production as well. Most of the aircraft we have been producing have been going to King Kongo. Due to his activity, he's able to make the most of them. So, as stands, we currently have, I think, about 10 aircraft. Going into yesterday, just after day change and when I recorded, after that production cycle rolled over, we had about 20. So, we have given 10 to him over the past day. So, if you have a look at his Air Force at the moment, it is basically comprised the majority of our aircraft, my aircraft. So he needs them more than me, and he can make far better use of them than I can. So for the time being, the aircraft I do have and do have in reserve are probably going to end up on carriers when I can get them on there. So that's what's happening there. And in general terms, basically how the coalition is working is King Kongo does a lot of the air operations, manages those. I kind of manage and are in charge of naval operations, and the other 2, Rog and All American, so North Brazil and East Amazonia, they fit in everywhere else and do a little bit of everything, but they generally specialize in the armor and army area, making up for what me and King Kongo lack. So that's generally how things are working, and it's working out pretty well. We can all focus on our own area. So yeah, that's looking good. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.